There are tons of small intricacies and small problems that you are going to face as a beginner trader, so I'm going to address them in this video and hopefully save you tons of time. In this video, first and foremost, I'm going to give you an introduction on who I am in my experience and journey as a trader. Next, we're going to be starting with the absolute basics, and we're going to be talking about what trading even is in the first place and the differences between trading and investing. We're also going to talk about what you're going to be focusing on as a trader and what I focus on a daily basis. Next, we're going to be talking about the 4 types of trading and the options that you have as a trader in terms of what you can trade in the markets. Finally, at the end of the video, we're going to be talking about mindset and the mindset that you need if you want to become a consistently profitable trader. And honestly, the mindset is the most important part, especially when you are a beginner trader. So make sure you stick to the end of this video if you want to find the absolute most value. Before we hop into the video, let me introduce myself. My name is Emanuel Malyarovich. I've been trading stocks for about 3.5 years, and I recently graduated from Georgia Tech, the Georgia Institute of Technology, with a degree in business and a concentration in finance. In 2022, I made $276,000 trading as a full-time Georgia Tech student. So if you're a student yourself, or if you have a job or other obligations, you could still become a trader. You don't need to worry about not having enough time, because I was able to profit that much, literally having an entire full course load. I had 5 classes and I was still able to successfully trade. So if you have obligations or responsibilities, you could still become a profitable day trader as long as you're willing to dedicate some time every single day towards learning this craft and keeping with the bootcamp series. The reason I show you my statements and how much money I'm making is because I want you to learn from someone who actually does this for a living. And unfortunately, there are tons of gurus on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube that are teaching people how to trade, yet they don't actually make money themselves. They're not doing this for a living. Would you learn how to play guitar from someone who's never picked up a guitar? Obviously not. Yet there are so many students who are learning from other traders or learning from people who've never really traded before, who don't actually make money doing this. So I don't show you my profits to brag or to boast. I do it so I can establish transparency. I do it so you could see that I actually do this for a living. I eat, breathe, sleep trading, and this is my entire life. And unfortunately, I have to show you my profits in order to be as transparent as possible. I also want to shed some light on how I actually became a trader in my journey as a trader. I remember about 3.5 years ago, COVID hit. I was still in school, of course, and I came back home, and my father, who has been a professional trader for over a decade, he was absolutely killing it in the markets, and lockdowns happened. I didn't have anything to do, and he told me, hey, why don't you learn this? And I never had any interest in the stock market. I didn't even really know what trading was, but I gave it a shot. And for about 2 to 3 weeks, he ended up teaching me all the basics, the fundamentals, kind of like the textbook theory stuff. So I learned all that. And then I started paper trading. In fact, alongside him in this very room, right next to him, I was paper trading and kind of just trying to follow what he's doing and understand the trades that he's executing. And for about 4 to 5 months, I paper traded, which is it's trading with fake money. It's like demo trading. It's not real. So I'm not risking my real capital. It's basically like practice. And I paper traded for about 4 to 5 months. And then I started trading with real money. And after all of his mentorship and guidance, my first day trading with real money, I made $750. And that day completely changed my life because it was like an awakening for me. I couldn't even believe that you can make that much money in such a short amount of time. I think I literally made it in like 2 or 3 hours. And it just completely blew my mind, and it opened my eyes to how much potential there really is in trading if you're willing to put the work in. So from there on, I absolutely dedicated all of my time, all of my effort towards mastering this craft. And luckily with COVID, I had unlimited time to pursue this. So that's what I did. Basically for the next year and a half, I dedicated everything. I even took off 2 semesters from school to make sure that I absolutely master this. Thanks to my dad, I was really able to do this, and he was there mentoring me, guiding me, telling me what I was doing wrong, telling me what trades I was performing correctly, and just having that mentor in my life was an absolute game changer. I would not have been the same trader that I am today without my father. In fact, I wouldn't even be a trader at all. And that's what inspired me to start this YouTube channel, to start my TikTok, because I want to provide that same sort of mentorship to you. The same way that my father mentored me, I want to mentor you, and I want to make sure that you hopefully succeed just like I did, and you could follow your dreams of becoming a profitable trader. So let's talk about what trading even is in the first place. Trading is when you buy and sell a security in order to make money. And that security could either be a stock, a crypto, forex pair, an option contract, commodity, debt, gold, silver. There's tons of different things that you can trade, and our goal is to profit off of it. We either buy it at a lower price and sell it at a higher price, and you could also do something called shorting. And shorting is when you profit off the price of the asset decreasing. So the best way that I can picture this for you is, imagine that you had a watch and I come to you, right? Let's say it's a Rolex. And for some reason, in 2 weeks, I believe that the price of your Rolex is actually going to decrease in value. And I want to capitalize on this opportunity, right? For some reason, I know that your Rolex is going to decrease in value. So I come to you and I say, let me borrow your Rolex. You agree to the deal, and I take your Rolex, I borrow it, and I sell it today on the open market for, let's say, $20,000. Then 2 weeks later, I ended up being correct. The price of the Rolex dropped to, let's say, $10,000. And what I do is I go back to the open market 2 weeks later when the price is at $10,000, and I buy it back for $10,000. Now I have the Rolex again, and I return it back to you. And that difference in price between the $20,000 and the $10,000 is my profit. So I just made $10,000 through that trade, through that transaction. And you might be thinking, okay, what's in it for you? And for you, you would charge me some sort of interest rate for allowing me to borrow the watch. So the interest rate could be, 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever you want to charge. And I will have to pay that for you allowing me to borrow your watch. And this is exactly what happens with stocks and crypto and really anything that you short. So let's call it with stocks. I trade on a broker, right? A broker is where you can actually execute the orders. They're the ones who allow you to buy and sell stocks. They're the ones who are interacting with the exchanges. And the broker has certain shares of certain stocks available, right? So what I'll do is whenever I want to short a certain stock, I will literally borrow those shares from the broker, sell them at the current market price, and then buy them back later, hopefully at a lower price, because if it drops, of course, I'm going to profit. If it goes up, then I'm going to lose money, right? So I'm going to buy it back, hopefully at a lower price, and then return those shares to the broker. And depending on what stock you're trading, they're going to have different interest rates. So the broker will charge you for allowing you to borrow the shares that they have. Not all securities are able to be shorted, okay? So lots of stocks, there's also lots of cryptos and Forex pairs, I'm sure, that they won't allow you to borrow them, right? So there are only specific securities that you're able to short. And remember, from the lender's perspective, the broker, or in this case, you who let me borrow your watch, you end up with the same asset at the end of the day, right? And you're actually collecting a fee for lending it. So those are the two ways that you could profit in the markets. You can either buy it at a lower price, sell it at a higher price. That's called going long, right? That's the easy one. Everyone knows that. And there's also shorting, which is the one that I just described, where you actually make money if the price decreases. Now, let's talk about the differences between trading and investing. And there are huge differences. And let's start with investing first. So the first point of investing is it is a way longer term outlook when you are investing. When you are making an investment, you are looking at the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, right? Warren Buffett is really famous for this because he would invest in companies 20, 30 years ago. And now 30 years later, he's, getting the reward for investing in it. So your outlook is way longer when you're investing. And as a result, you're going to be looking at completely different factors in investing versus trading. So for investing, your goal is to ultimately find the intrinsic value of that asset. What is that asset actually worth, right? What tangibles does it have? If I was to sell this asset on the open market, what would be the correct value that I would get for this asset? And in order to figure out an asset's intrinsic value, right? Let's take a company, for example. You're going to be looking at financial statements, such as the balance sheets, the income statements, statements of cash flow. You're going to be looking at how much revenue is this company producing? What products does it sell? How is this company performing relative to other companies in the same industry, right? You're looking at all of these factors that describe the quality of the company and the actual value that they are producing. So that's what you're concerned with. And just remember, the goal is to figure out the intrinsic value. And I actually took a class at Georgia Tech, and my professor used to run and operate a $1 billion hedge fund. And he taught us all of the little tips and tricks that he would use to figure out the intrinsic value of a company. And it's extremely interesting, but it's completely different from trading. With trading, you're not going to be looking at any of that stuff. You're not even going to be looking at news. I've been trading for like 3.5 years now, and I have almost never looked at news for my trading decisions because I only focus on price action. And what price action is, it is the study of how price moves, right? So you can think of it like this: based on how price moved in the past, and based on how price is moving today, we can determine what price is going to do in the future. And that is exactly what we're doing every single day when we are trading, right? We're looking at price. We're looking at the way price moves, right? So for example, we look at candlestick charts, right? I'm sure you guys have seen that. We're looking at order flow or level 2 data, right? We could read the order book and how the shares are being bought and sold. That's something that I do especially. And based on that information, we can determine where price is going to go in the future. And there are 4 different styles of trading that I like to describe. Number 1 is core trading. That's when you're going to be holding the position anywhere between a couple months to 1 year. And do not confuse this with investing, because it is not. We're still only looking at price action despite us holding this position for close to a year. Okay. It doesn't matter what time we're looking at, right? What time frame we're looking at. We can look at price action on a very minute time frame, such as 1 minute charts, 2 minute charts, to figure out what price is going to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes. We could also look at larger time frames, such as the daily charts, right? Or the weekly charts, to figure out what price is going to do in the next few weeks and even next few months. And don't worry, I'm going to show you exactly what these time frames mean and how to actually read them. Next, we also have swing trading. Swing trading is when you're going to be holding the position anywhere between 2 days to 14 days. All right. So between 2 days and 2 weeks, that is a swing trade. Next, we have day trading, and that is what I personally do. Day trading is when you're going to be holding the position for only that day, meaning you buy that day, you sell that day. If I buy a stock on Monday at the market open, I'm going to be closing it before the stock market closes on Monday. I am not holding any positions overnight. And next, we have something called scalping. And scalping is like high frequency trading. You're going to get in and out of different securities in order to make those quick profits. And if you do those a ton of different times and go for those small percentage gains, those gains and those profits add up. So you're not going for that big move, you're going for lots of small moves. And this is actually something that I do. It's my personal favorite strategy. I am a scalper. I read the order flow. I read the way that shares are being bought and sold. And based on that information, I make my decisions, and I'm getting in and out of stocks extremely quickly, sometimes even seconds apart. Let's talk about the options that you have as a trader in terms of what you could actually trade in the markets. And there are really 4 options for you as a retail trader. Number 1, you could trade stocks or shares of a company. We're going to get into that in a second. Cryptocurrency, you could trade foreign exchange currencies, and you could also trade option contracts. So let's start with stocks and shares of a company. That's what I personally trade. I am a day trader in the stock market. And whenever you buy and sell shares, you could think of it as buying very small pieces of a company and then flipping it, right? You're buying a small piece of the company and then trying to sell it for a higher price, or short it and buy it back at a lower price, right? So you could think of it kind of like as a pie, right? And if you buy a very small crumb of that pie, right, you could think of that as you're buying a very small portion of a company, and the larger portion of the entire pie that you own, the larger share you have of that actual company, right? So let's say Apple, for example, if you buy a share of Apple, you are effectively an owner of Apple, although a very, very small owner. However, you are still an owner, and the largest shareholders of the company, the people who actually run the company, they are the ones that have the highest amount of shares. So in other words, whenever you are trading stocks or trading shares, you are buying and selling very small portions of the company that you are trading. Day trading stocks can be a little bit tricky because of several limitations that you are going to have. Number 1, there are 2 different types of accounts that you can open as a stock trader: a margin account and a cash account, and they are both very different and have completely different purposes. Let's start with a margin account. So with a margin account, and that's the account that I personally trade with, you are able to have leverage, right? You could have 4-to-1 buying power, meaning let's say if you have $25,000 in a margin account, you are able to use $100,000 worth of buying power. You have that 4-to-1 leverage. So you're able to buy more shares of stock because of that leverage. But understand that while leverage can be very useful, you have that additional buying power to, put more risk into positions. It's also much riskier. You can end up losing way more money if you don't know what you're doing. With a margin account, you could also both go long and short. However, with a cash account, you can only go long. One huge limitation of having a margin account is that you may fall under the PDT rule, which is the pattern day trading rule. And this is enforced by the SEC. I believe they made this enforceable in 2001. And what it states is if you don't have $25,000 in your margin account, you can only execute 3 day trades per week. This could be a huge limitation because as day traders, our job is to find opportunities and capitalize on those opportunities. But if you only have 3 opportunities per week, it can be very difficult to actually, trade and make money. So unless you have that $25,000, you're only really going to be able to execute those 3 day trades. However, if you do have over $25,000 in your account, you will be able to execute as many trades as you want. So you are golden. So if you're someone who wants to start stock trading and you have $25,000 in your margin account, you are golden. You are good. However, if you're someone who doesn't have $25,000 in their account, it's all good. There are still some options for you. Option one, you could trade with an offshore broker and a broker that is not regulated by the SEC. However, this comes with some risks because at the end of the day, if they're not enforced by the SEC, there may be some kind of sketchy risks with it where they might just take all your money and kind of tell you to screw off. So make sure you know that the brokerages that you're trading offshore are actually legit. And one great one is called Capital Markets. I know a ton of different traders who have actually used this offshore brokerage, and definitely check it out. It could be a great option for you. The next option you have, if you don't have $25,000 in your margin account, is to open up a cash account. And with a cash account, you could actually do unlimited day trades. However, there are some limitations with a cash account as well. Number one, you can't short, right? So you can only go long in a cash account. And the other thing is you do have to wait for your money to settle, right? You could think of it as a check settling at a bank. You need to wait for your money to settle after you execute a trade. So let's say you have $10,000 in your cash account and you use that $10,000 for a trade on Monday. You are not able to use that capital, that $10,000, until Wednesday, 2 days later, because it takes time for that cash you used for the trade to settle back into your account. The last option you could do is actually open up several different margin accounts, right? So let's say you have $10,000. What you could do is go ahead and open up 2 or 3 different margin accounts, and you'll be able to have that 4-to-1 leverage on every single account, right? So if you put, let's say, $5,000 in one account, right, you'll have that 4x buying power. So you'll be able to trade with 20,000 buying power in one account. And if you have the other margin account with a different broker, you could also have that $20,000 and that 4x buying power with the other account, right? And now you're able to take 6 day trades per week as opposed to only 3 by kind of allocating your capital into 2 different margin accounts. And of course, you could also use 3 if you want to get to that 9 day trades per week. So those are the 3 options. You can open up a cash account. However, there are some limitations. You can open up several margin accounts, right? Or you could use an offshore brokerage. However, if I was you, I'd probably open up several different margin accounts because in that case, you get that buying power and you could also go long and short. Next, let's talk about cryptocurrency. And this has become increasingly more popular in 2022 and 2023. And you are basically selling online digital tokens, right? So you are buying and selling these digital currencies in order to make a profit. And trading crypto is a great option for beginners that don't have much capital. They don't have a PDT rule. So you could literally start with as little as $100, but preferably, make sure you start with at least a few hundred, like $300, $400, $500, because it's going to give you that flexibility to take on different trades at the same time. And it's going to give you that flexibility where if you lose a little bit, you're not completely dead in the water and your account's blown out. So another thing is with crypto is a lot of brokers and a lot of crypto exchanges, they provide leverage for you. And some crypto exchanges even give you 200-to-1 leverage. However, trading with leverage comes with huge risks. And I see so many people getting their accounts blown out because they're using way too much leverage. However, this shouldn't be a problem as long as you know how to manage your risk, which is something that I'm going to be teaching you. So cryptocurrency is great for beginners. If you don't have too much money to start, you could use that leverage that the exchanges are providing you. Just make sure you're careful with it and that you know what you're doing with this leverage. And I think crypto is a great option for beginners that are just getting into the markets. The other thing is crypto trading is 24/7. The markets are always open. So this is great for people who, have time obligations, right? They can't trade in the stock market, right? They're able to trade crypto 24/7. So they can kind of fit it into their own schedule when they want to trade. One drawback to stock trading is the fact that the market is only open between 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. And that could pose a problem for people that are in Europe or in Asia who, have other obligations during that time. They might even be sleeping, right? So having the market only open during those times, it's great for people in America. However, for people outside of America, it could pose a threat because, other people have jobs, they have other obligations. So make sure you keep that in mind if you're considering to trade stocks. Let's talk about Forex trading. With Forex trading, you are basically exchanging national currencies and they're usually pegged against each other. So the US dollar could be pegged against the euro and you're trading these Forex pairs and you're basically exchanging these national currencies and trying to make money from it. And it is honestly great as well for beginners because you don't need that much money to start. You could start with as little as $100. A lot of Forex brokers only have a minimum deposit of around $100. So you don't need that much money to start. And you could also use leverage to your advantage. Of course, consider the risks, but you could use leverage to your advantage. So even if you have a smaller account, just like crypto, you're able to at least make progress on that smaller account through using leverage and borrowing money from the broker. So if you're someone who doesn't have much money to start, Forex and crypto are probably your best options. There's also options trading, which is an agreement between 2 parties, basically a contract that a specific transaction will be executed at a specific date and at a specific time and at a specific price for that underlying security. So you place call options if you think a specific stock is going to increase in price, and you will get put options which bets on that security or the stock actually decreasing in price. Options is also great if you don't have too much capital. However, if you're looking for really in-depth options education, I am not your guy. I do not want to give you information that I am not absolutely confident about. So if you're looking for that in-depth options education, unfortunately, this channel is not the right one for you. I am strictly a shares guy. I only trade equity. However, all the price action principles and everything that I will teach in this bootcamp will also likely apply to trading options as well, because I teach you how to read price action, and you need to know how to read price action even if you're trading options. Finally, let's talk about the mindset that you need to have if you want to be a successful trader. And I'm going to shed some insight on the mindset that I actually adopted throughout my trading journey. And the first thing that you need to do is have a longer term mindset. Understand that trading is extremely difficult. Trading will not be easy. It's going to take an extended period of time for you to actually learn this. However, it is completely attainable if you put your mind to it, if you're disciplined enough to work every single day, and if you think with a longer term picture. You cannot assess your trading success through a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. You have to understand that you have to look at it from a month-to-month or even 3-month basis, where you're assessing your progress and how you're performing every couple of months, right? It really takes that much time. I see way too many traders, right? They'll spend 3 to 4 weeks doing this, and they're actually on the right path. They're making significant strides, but they're still losing money, or their strategies aren't working, and they just quit because it just wasn't enough time, and they're too narrow-minded to really understand that you have to look at this on a longer term and broader picture. Next huge piece of advice, and this is actually from a book that I read. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And there was a specific line in that book that said that if you want to achieve something, if you want to be something, you have to envision yourself already the person that you want to become. So for me, when I started, I wanted to be a profitable day trader, right? I wanted to make money doing this. So for me, in my mind, I was already a profitable day trader, right? That's where my mindset was. I already succeeded in this craft. I was already buying things from the money that I made from day trading in my head. And I never had a doubt in my mind that I wouldn't accomplish this because of that. In my mind, I was already there. I'm already a profitable day trader. I just had to go through the reps and just go through, the time of becoming one. But I knew I was going to become it. I never had a slither of doubt to whether I was going to actually succeed in this. And that's what you need to have too. You need to literally obsessively think about yourself already in the position where you want to be. And in this case, in the position of being a profitable day trader. Next, do not tell anyone, including your family or friends, that you are starting to become a day trader, because believe me, they're going to doubt you. They're not going to support you. They're going to instill negativity into your life through this, because this happened to me when I started my day trading journey. I would tell my friends, I'd tell my family, and they all told me, oh, 95% of traders fail. You're not going to succeed. It's a waste of time. Why even do it? And despite me having that mindset that I was already a profitable trader, it still kind of demotivated me, right? There was just negativity around it. And it kind of hindered my progress a little bit, right? You want to absolutely erase all of that, right? No one is going to believe that you're going to accomplish this because they think trading is gambling. They think that 95% of traders fail, right? So they're just going to demotivate you. Why do you need that, right? You need to work in silence. You need to grind in silence. I'm talking about monk mode. Don't tell anyone. Just go, right? Work hard, look at the charts, learn your strategies, listen to this bootcamp, and work in silence over time. And guess what? When you have thousands of dollars coming into your bank account every single week, and maybe even every single day, that's when your family and friends will support you. That's when they're going to ask you, oh, how can I learn? Can you teach me? Oh, what are you trading? What are the signals, right? They're going to basically envy you at that point, but they're not going to believe in you unless you have the results to back it up. So work hard, get those results, and then tell people. Now, let's talk about that idea that trading is gambling and that 95% of traders fail. And something to understand, that the barrier of entry to trading is very low. Anyone can become a trader. They could just open up a crypto account, a brokerage account, put some money in, and boom, they're a trader, right? And most of the people who do that fail because they don't actually know what they're doing. But that's what the statistic includes. The statistic includes people who don't actually treat it seriously. They just open up an account, they put some money in, they take some trades, they lose all their money, and that's where the statistic comes from. So don't really, let it demotivate you. And what you have to understand is that, yeah, trading is hard. Not that many people succeed in it, but not that many people succeed in anything that's important, right? Most people who start a business end up failing. Most people who want to become doctors end up failing. Most people who want to become lawyers end up failing. Most people who want to do anything that's actually important and that will produce a significant amount of income for yourself they're failing because it's difficult. It's hard. Most people don't want to put the hard work in. Most people don't want to apply themselves over an extended period of time in order to reach a goal. But that's what makes it easy. There's no competition, right? Most people aren't going to put the work in. So you have to be that guy who's going to dedicate yourself towards this, because guess what? At the end of it, you're going to have one of the best professions. I think it's honestly the best profession that you could have, because it takes time, obviously, becoming a profitable trader. But once you are a profitable trader and you know what you're doing, you can make obscene amounts of money in a very short period of time. Like, imagine you wake up for the first few hours of the market, you make your 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, right? Even if it's $300, no problem. That's $300 in my bank account. And I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want, to pursue my other businesses, to pursue my passions, to spend time with my family. Once you are skilled at trading, you can make tons of money in a very short amount of time. And the best way you could think of it is boxing. Guys like Floyd Mayweather. People are like, oh, how does Floyd Mayweather make 100+ million in 25 minutes in his boxing match? And it's like, no, he dedicated years of his life, right? He dedicated blood, sweat, and tears and ridiculous amounts of time to get to the point where he can make 120 million in 20 minutes, right? So that's kind of the same thing with trading. Apply yourself now, invest in yourself now. And when you are a profitable trader, you can make lots of money in a very short amount of time and then live the way that you want to live. Hopefully this video helps, and hopefully this video provides you that mindset that you're going to need if you want to become a successful trader. So if you want to join this bootcamp journey, make sure you click the subscribe button, and I'm going to be making my next video very soon. And I can't wait to be teaching you guys everything that I know in trading and to hopefully help you become consistently profitable traders. And if you have any questions, make sure you either